So let's say that I own a farm, and on this farm I have a bunch of orange trees. Okay, so we're going to be talking about farming oranges in this video. So over here I'll just draw a couple oranges, and I picked oranges mainly because that's the only fruit that I think I can actually draw on here. But I think that oranges will do just fine. So we're farming oranges. So what we're going to talk about right now is we're going to talk about the increase in revenue of adding an additional unit of an input. And in this case, the input that we're going to talk about is labor. So that sounds really, really abstract right now, but when we get down to it, I think it's really kind of plain and simple. So we're just going to go ahead and get right down to an example, and we'll go from there. So if I work on a farm, I have to make the decision of how many workers to hire. And so let's just say that I can start by hiring 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and that's plenty to get the point of what's going on here. So depending on how many workers I hire, I'm going to produce a different number of oranges. So this will be the number of oranges, and I'll say picked because I don't really think that farm hands can contribute to growing oranges. I think that would just have to do with the trees. So the number of oranges picked. Well, if I have 0 workers, we obviously pick 0 oranges. And then if I have 1 worker, let's say that he can pick 10 oranges. 2 workers together pick 30. 3 workers together pick 60. Do I want to do 60? Yeah, I'll do 60. 4 workers then pick 70. And 5 workers pick, I don't know, let's say that they pick 75. All right. So then let's say that oranges always sell in market. So the price of oranges is always going to be $2. So every single orange sells for $2. And we're going to go back and change this either later in this video or in a subsequent video, depending on how quickly I go through this, so that we can see what happens as price changes. But for the simplest example, we're going to leave price constant. So from previous videos, we should know how to calculate the marginal product. And that's where we're going to start. It's not the marginal revenue product, but it's just the marginal product. So that's going to be the first place to start. And so the marginal product of the 0, for the first column, we just don't calculate it. But now as we go from 0 workers to 1 worker, that first worker picks 10 oranges. So another thing that we could call this column is we could call this total product. So when we increase the number of workers from 0 to 1, we increase our total product from 0 to 10. So our marginal product of the first worker is 10 minus 0 over 1 minus 0. Increase in total product of 10 divided by the increase in the number of workers in our input, our labor. So I should put that here also. This is our labor. So we increase labor by 1 and we get an increase in product of 10. So our marginal product here is 10. Now for the next one, we go from 1 to 2 workers. And the marginal product of the second worker we're going to see will be 30 minus 10. So we jump up 20 in the amount of produce that we produce. The amount of produce that we produce. Yes, I said that correctly. So 30 divided by 10, or 30 minus 10, excuse me, divided by, then we're going to have 2 minus 1 because we just increased, this is the, I should write this out one time. So this right here, this first part, this is the change in total product. And then this side, on the other side of the division line, this is the change in labor. Or I could put, to be more general, of the input. So this is the increase in total product that can be attributed to that next unit of input, to the last unit of input, the marginal unit of input. So this is the marginal product. So jumping back to this next line, we have 30 minus 10 is 20, divided by 2 minus 1 is 1. So this is 20 over 1, which is equal to 1, or excuse me, is equal to 20. And so now for 3, I've kind of messed up all of my columns here, haven't I? So this was for 0, this was for 1, this was for 2. I haven't messed this up too badly. Okay, so now we're going for 3. So we are going to have 60 minus 30, an increase in total product of 30, divided by 3 minus 2, which is just going to be 1. So if for the third worker, we're going to get 30 more oranges are picked for hiring the third worker. So this is equal to 30. And then for the fourth worker, we are going to have 70 minus 60 divided by 4 minus 3, which is just going to be 10 over 1, which is equal to 10. So that is just saying again that the fourth worker, for hiring the fourth worker, we get 10 more oranges picked. The marginal product of the fourth worker is 10 more oranges, moving from 60 to 70. And then lastly, the fifth worker gives us 75 minus 70 divided by 5 minus 4, which is just going to be 5 over 1, which is 5. So this written out is that the fifth worker increases total product by 5. And I'll just put in parentheses from 70 to 75. So the last thing that we want to calculate is the marginal revenue product. So I'm just going to abbreviate that as MRP because I'm running out of room. But that's marginal. You know what, I'll just do a big arrow coming over here. So the marginal revenue product is the increase in revenue that can be associated with the increase in inputs. So to put that more plainly, this is the increase in revenue for hiring another worker. So the marginal revenue product, and I should put down here to really be correct, of labor, is the increase in revenue, and I'll write this out up here really small, the increase in revenue, in other words, the marginal revenue, that can be associated, and where am I going to finish this? I'll finish this, we'll kind of go from here all the way down to here. That can be associated, actually, you know what, I'm just going to scroll over to the right. So that can be associated with an increase, with a 1 unit increase in labor. And you can do this for any input, but in this example we're doing this for labor. So we could do this with having more fruit trees or for having more land. But in this video we're talking about picking oranges and we're talking about the number of workers to hire. So we're holding all of the other inputs constant and we're just looking at what's the marginal revenue product of labor, so of hiring more workers. So the way that we calculate this is the marginal revenue product is simply equal to marginal product times marginal revenue. It's as simple as that. So here our marginal revenue is $2. This is our marginal revenue because this is the increase in revenue for any 1 unit of oranges, for any 1 unit of production is what I was going to say before I realized that we were talking about oranges still. So all that we're going to do is we're going to take this column and we're going to multiply it by 2. And actually I should highlight this 2 because this 2 goes to that line. So the marginal revenue product of the first worker is $20. And we do measure this in dollars. The marginal revenue product of the second worker is 20 times 2 is $40. The marginal revenue product of the third worker is $2 times 30, which is $60. The marginal revenue product of the fourth worker is $2 times 10 units of production times 10 oranges is just $20. And then the marginal revenue product of the fifth worker is $5. Or excuse me, is 5 times 2, which is $10. So the reason that marginal revenue product is important is that if we get to choose how many workers to hire, if we get to pick this, we want to hire where the number of workers is that they're basically earning us as much as we have to pay them. And we'll see how that works out in later videos, and that's kind of the whole point of learning this to start. So just to reiterate, marginal revenue product is equal to marginal product times marginal revenue, and marginal revenue product is the increase in revenue that can be associated with a 1 unit increase in an input. And in this case, we were talking about labor. So it's the increase in revenue that you can attribute or associate with a 1 unit increase in labor. The 1 unit increase is at the margin. This is the marginal with a marginal increase in labor. So I could just kind of take this right here and insert it right there. So this, again, this is if we've already hired 3 workers, this is, so I'll write this out because I actually think this is important to see. So if we've hired 3 workers, the marginal revenue product of the fourth worker is going to be, back over here, that fourth worker increases our product, our total product, by 10, and each product is worth $2, so that he increases our total revenue by 20. So if we've hired 3 workers, the marginal revenue product of the fourth worker is $20. So that fourth worker earns our farm an extra $20. So I'm going to do at least one more video working through this concept. So if this isn't 100% clear, don't get discouraged yet. But after that other video, if you still don't understand what's going on, feel free to let me know, and I'll try and figure out some better ways to explain it. So I will see you there.